It looks like the International Criminal Court is about to make history by investigating the United States for war crimes for the very, very first time since its creation. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mika Says Sukas. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host. If you are watching this, make sure you hit that like button, hit the share button as well, and make sure that you subscribe. So I don't know if you all have heard this news, but it broke yesterday evening that the International Criminal Court will be investigating the United States for war crimes in Afghanistan. Now this comes just days after the United States and the Taliban reach a deal to effectively end the war in Afghanistan. So this report is from Al Jazeera that says the International Criminal Court has authorized an investigation into possible war crimes committed in Afghanistan, which would include allegations against the United States, Afghan and Taliban armed fighters. The appeals chamber considers it appropriate to authorize the investigation, said presiding judge Piotr Hofmansky on Thursday. It said that the decision, which comes days after the United States and the Taliban armed group signed a peace deal, overturns a lower court decision and opens the way for the prosecutor Fatou Bensouda to launch a full investigation despite the United States government's opposition. The United States is not a member of the Hague-based ICC court. So this is a little interesting because this is actually not, like, this isn't something that's new. This has been a contentious issue for quite some time. In fact, in 2017, this is when the investigation, or at least the start of the investigation, or an attempt at an investigation, was started, and there was a lot of beef between the Trump administration and the International Criminal Court over these allegations. In fact, Mike Pompeo eventually went on to say that the United States will deny visas to anyone, any ICC personnel investigating possible war crimes by the United States troops in Afghanistan. That is crazy. That is insane. What's even wilder is that we are all about calling this person a war criminal, that person a war criminal. We're all about using extrajudicial methods to, like what we're doing with Julian Assange, like what we did with alleged terrorist people, to get them into our soil, to torture them, hold them in Guantanamo Bay. I mean, basically conduct every illegal act you can as far as international law is concerned. I mean, think about what we just did to General Soleimani in Afghanistan, or Iraq, excuse me. That was a violation of international law and a war crime. And so all too often have people actually talked down to the International Criminal Court, specifically because it has allowed the United States to get away with literal murder over and over and over again, while basically being used as an arm of the United States to prosecute leaders who will not, or who we basically have found useless after we've used them for whatever purpose we've used them for. This is emblematic in the prosecution of the former leader of Chad, who was a United States puppet, right? He was the leader who was funding terrorism. And those terrorists were then going into Libya. And then when Gaddafi was forced to retaliate, as you would expect, they would attack Gaddafi without ever mentioning the fact that the leader of Chad was being funded and financed by the United States. Now, after we finally get rid of Gaddafi, very shortly after, all of a sudden, we throw him to the ICC. So now we done got rid of two leaders in that region, and we've caused mass instability, and of course we've seen what that's led to, an open slave market in Libya, amongst a lot of other issues. So the International Criminal Court actually going after the United States and investigating us for war crimes is a big deal. It'll mean that officially, I mean, actually, there have been other courts, international courts, by the way, that have called both Bush and Cheney war criminals. They've been found guilty of war crimes in other courts. However, the International Criminal Court is an international representative body. In other words, if you are considered a war criminal by the ICC, you are considered a war criminal by every single member of the ICC. And although the United States, we're not going to give any credence to whether or not they find us guilty, the evidence, especially with the leaked documents from Afghanistan that recently came out, the evidence against us is overwhelming. The evidence against Bush, and by the way, I'm pretty sure that Mike Pompeo, amongst others, were so adamant about ensuring that the ICC cannot investigate these war crimes, because you have to remember, these people are all George W. Bush alum. Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Mad Dog Mattis, and a few others, they're all George W. Bush alum, many of whom, especially John Bolton and Jim Mattis, were actually in Afghanistan and Iraq as generals. So this is a big deal. It's weird that it's not being discussed more, but it is no surprise that Trump has not been handling this the way he should as a president. He should be cooperating fully, because it would give credence to his brand. It would give credence to him supposedly being a candidate or a president who is outside of the Republican establishment, because what it looks like right now is that you are simply trying to protect your image and hopefully dissuade any investigation into your acts. Because remember, Afghanistan Trump might have just ended the war in Afghanistan, which, by the way, he might have done so because of this ICC court case coming up, right? That might have been why he did it. But the war happened with George W. Bush, started there, was continued by Barack Obama, and then it was just recently, given a crescendo, if you will. Like it's supposedly ending right now under Trump, but Trump was also there committing illegal acts since he took over office. So he's probably trying to protect his butt too. But this is a good step in the right direction. Do we know how it's going to turn out? No, the United States has very long tentacles. Their reach is very influential. However, the investigation side, the discovery side, can further could further reveal more crimes, give us names, possibly names within this administration. Because you have to think, there are people who are in this administration who, if are found guilty or were part of the administration, some of them might not be there anymore because Trump fired them. But if they're found guilty, there's a chance they may not even be able to qualify to be a member of any administration going forward, because if they travel outside of the country, that's it for them. They would get arrested. So, Andy Gerard, thank you very much for the super chat. My man Niko, a much needed rational voice of a veteran. Thank you for all you do. Look up people. You're being sprayed. Love you, Niko. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. But I saw somebody just mention Chelsea Manning. I'm glad you did, because I was actually just about to mention that. That's a big deal. It's not, I think Chelsea Manning actually revealed war crimes in Iraq, I think. Don't quote me on that. Or it might have been both, quite possibly. But however, it's still pretty exonerating for Chelsea Manning to know that more, not only Chelsea Manning, but other whistleblowers as well, to know that, hey, finally, after kicking and screaming and yelling at the top of your lungs and going through literal torture, people are finally going to see what you revealed to be true. Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. Careful, Niko. They may implicate your boy W. I'm hoping that they do. Glory Jones, thank you very much for the super chat. About damn time, and free Julian Assange too. 100% agree. 100% agree. It is peculiar though. I will say this before I go. What happened to, Trump is the worst thing in the world? Why weren't the Democrats harping on this? Right? I thought that everything Trump touches is bad, and if Trump is denying visas to members of the international criminal justice system, well, that would be the one thing that you would think they would harp on, right? He's been trying to deny these visas, by the way, since 2017, and Mike Pompeo finalized this, at least, like I said, according to Pompeo, they're denying visas to any member of the International Criminal Court who participates in this investigation. You would figure that would be teeing up the Democrats to talk about, yeah, but then you know what happens next, right? You know who you have to talk about if you talk about Trump. You got to talk about Obama, or as many people like to refer to him as, Obama, right? And they know it. So it sucks that they won't talk about this more, but it just once again is revealing that's it for this particular story. Thank you so much for tuning into that live stream segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Make sure you share this article. Let people know what's going on out there. I know we're so fixated on the election. The election is very important, especially because of issues like this. Foreign policy is the number one issue, and we're not engaged in the same war crimes that Trump has, Obama has, and George W. Bush has. We have to. If we want any chance to repair our relationship and our image with the rest of the world, we have to start by accountability. We have to, of course, elect somebody who will not actively participate in war crimes. Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat, and your boy Cheney. I know, right? Cheney should have been arrested. Somebody should have flew over to arrest Cheney, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So, with that being said, people, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.